Hey YouTube, Joyboy here. So, chapter 836 of One Piece dropped, the Vivre card Lola gave. And so, as you should expect, spoilers on the way, so be sure to check out that chapter before you check out my first reaction to the chapter. But without further ado, let's get right into it. And although we stayed in the forest, this is a chapter I think we can all get behind as a awesome chapter with a lot of cool reveals, specifically related to Cracker. And then, of course, Big Mom's Vivre card having some anti-homies effects, which I don't think anyone saw coming, but is going to be extremely useful for Nami. But as a side note about Nami and the Vivre card she got from Lola, she actually pulled it out of her boobs the entire... And so, like it's been 2 years plus since they first encountered Lola, so has Nami just been keeping it there the entire time? I wonder what else she could pull out of there, to be honest with you. And then also the fact that when she takes it out of her boobs, all of a sudden the homies are like, oh shit, like we can sense Big Mom's aura. But before then they couldn't, so does Nami's boobs have some like soul aura effect or something like that? Jokes aside, that doesn't make a ton of sense, but we'll just go with it. And so I'm sure some people might be thinking that this is the sole role of the Vivre card. Hopefully those people are in the minority, because the Vivre card will definitely play another role outside of just being a deterrent for all the fodder homies for the Straw Hats going forward in Whole Cake Island. Charlotte Brûlée and Charlotte Cracker are soon to find out that Nami does possess the Vivre card of Big Mom. Probably as soon as next chapter, we can probably look forward to that happening. And I think at some point in time, Big Mom is going to know this as well, which would be an extremely interesting turn of events and make them wonder how they got a Vivre card from Big Mom. Potentially they can also think of it as being stolen initially until the story is fully explained, which could add to the potential conflict that Oda is setting up between the Big Mom pirates and the Straw Hats, ultimately leading to the final reveal that they got it because they saved one of Big Mom's daughters. And despite the fact that Big Mom doesn't seem to value those husbands as not really related to the family, she does respect and love her family, I believe. And so having saved Lola is going to be a big deal to Big Mom once she finds out. And also what I found interesting is that we get all the flashbacks between Nami and Lola back in the Thriller Bark arc this chapter. But one scene was specifically cut out from the flashbacks, which was the scene in which Lola said that in the future, if they were ever in danger, her mom would help them. So I find it really interesting that Oda chooses to foreshadow the interactions between Lola and Nami in regards to the Vivre card, but did not show that scene in particular, which I think is important because that particular line will come into play in the future. And so also related to Big Mom's motives this chapter is we got confirmation of something that I had reasoned in the past, which is that Big Mom did not order Charlotte Brûlée and the homies to kill the Straw Hats. Charlotte Brûlée specifically says this chapter, after sort of being insulted by actually Big Mom and then Charlotte Cracker, that Big Mom thought that Brûlée might get defeated by Luffy. She ended up sending Cracker, and Brûlée was like, you didn't need to come. I would have slaughtered them in a moment had Big Mom given the order, which implies Big Mom did not give that order. In fact, probably gave the exact opposite order, that she was to not kill the Straw Hats. And so I think this is important, and again supports the idea that Big Mom's sole objective here is not to rid her country of the Straw Hats, but do something else to them, with them, for they have some purpose that she has in mind for the Straw Hats. And then we also get a sense of the amount of respect Big Mom has for Luffy at the very least, which is that she foresaw that Brûlée would get defeated by Luffy. And then with that being said, she did a preemptive measure by sending Cracker in as well, which is sort of interesting in the first place because having planned out this event from the start and sent Brûlée there in the first place, I find it interesting that she would send Brûlée first, sort of with the expectation that she would get beat, and then later send Cracker afterwards, which is really interesting. Maybe she thought at this point in time Brûlée might already be close to getting defeated, and then Cracker would come in as sort of the next line of defense. I'm not exactly sure, but I do think that Big Mom respects Luffy a lot more than I think that a lot of the fandom really considered. But I speculated in the past that maybe this would be some situation in which Big Mom was more interested in Luffy than she was in the Vinsmokes, but I think this chapter pretty much debunks that idea. And then I'll go back to sort of the original thought that I had, which was the 2 birds and 1 stone scenario, which is that Big Mom does think that Luffy is interesting and has some purpose for the Straw Hats. Outside of simply just killing them, she has an interest in Luffy at the very least, but also had an interest in the Vinsmokes. And so with this being said, decided to take out 2 birds with 1 stone by targeting Sanji specifically to be the one to marry into Big Mom's family. Also supports the notion that the Vinsmokes didn't try and marry any of the other sons or daughters with Big Mom's family, that they really view Sanji as being somebody that they don't care about and they're willing to sacrifice to, quote-unquote, that crazy bitch. And so Big Mom took this as an opportunity to do 2 things that she wanted to do at the same exact time. And so a very interesting moment in this chapter that doesn't make any sense to me right now is that Brûlé ended up throwing the mirror on the ground that contained Chopper and Carrot, and so they're still trapped in the mirror world, but the mirror that they were trapped in sort of broke. I'm not sure if I understand this, but Chopper says, hey, hold on 1 second, and then Luffy goes, and then nothing after that scene is shown, so it's like Chopper told Luffy something, but we didn't actually get to see what Chopper said, so I think whatever he said would be important, unless I missed something within the chapter. I'm not exactly sure, but this scene definitely intrigues me. And so let's get into the topic that I'm sure all of you are most interested in, which is Charlotte Cracker, one of the 3 sweet commanders. So this is basically the equivalent of the calamities in Kaido's crew for Big Mom, and one of those members is Charlotte Cracker. So we can actually kind of connect here Charlotte Cracker with Jack. They should be, if both crews are equal in strength, Big Mom and Kaido, then Charlotte Cracker should be around the same strength as Jack. Even though I see people hate on Jack, it'll be really interesting to see how Luffy stacks up against Charlotte Cracker. And we were shown this chapter that Cracker has the ability to make the homies wither away and die. And Luffy specifically said this wasn't Haki. I'm not exactly sure what to believe because some of the spoilers that I read intimated that it was Haki, but here Manga Stream specifically says that it's not Haki. And then Luffy sort of comments, did this happen out of fear itself? And so what exactly is going on here? This is a huge moment. Whatever is going on here is not like anything that I think that I can remember seeing in the world of One Piece. And the answer to this is going to be really interesting. I wonder if anyone's going to be able to come up with good ideas on the topic, but as of right now, I have no idea. The one connection I can make is that we get an implication that in order to originally steal the life force from people in the first place involves fear. We can see this with Charlotte Moscato and how his life force was taken. And so I find it interesting that Luffy specifically comments as fear as possibly being a reason why the life was leaving these homies. So perhaps there's a connection between these 2 things that we're not fully aware of yet. Perhaps like, well, if you take the life force from the original person, it involves fear, and then to revert that life force back out of the host that they put them in also involves fear. I'm not sure. I suppose the simplest answer is that they are literally just terrified by the presence of Cracker alone, and that he wasn't using any sort of Conqueror's Haki or anything like that. It's just his reputation itself is enough to scare the living shit out of the homies. And so now, guys, it's being set up as Luffy versus both Charlotte Cracker and Brûlé. There's really nobody else that can take on these characters right now because we have Nami left, and that's it. And then also Randolph is there as well. And we're left with the original problem that we all thought of whenever Luffy said that he was heading to Whole Cake Island, which this is the territory of a Yonko, one of the 4 strongest pirates, with one of the 4 strongest pirate crews, and he didn't bring enough forces. There's not enough firepower here to really take on Big Mom. And so unless Luffy is just completely stronger than we're giving him credit for right now, and I'm really hoping that's the case, but I don't really see it happening, then they need a way to beat these guys without actually beating them with their fists straight up. And so with that being said, my honest opinion is that come the next few chapters, Big Mom's Vivre card is going to play a role to help them get out of the forest and get an audience with Big Mom. Because right now, if that's not the case, then what I see happening is Luffy beats up all three of those characters, Randolph, Cracker, and Brûlé, all by himself. And Cracker, at the very least, seems like a character who would be on equal footing as Luffy, similar to like Doflamingo level at least. And so it seems hard enough for Luffy to be able to beat him, let alone everybody else that's in the forest. And so the last thing that I want to talk about in this chapter is Charlotte Cracker's what appears to be Devil Fruit ability, where he can, he's known as Thousand Arms Cracker, and he can make sort of mini copies of his arms. And I'm kind of interested to see what kind of Devil Fruit power this is. Is this similar to Robin's Devil Fruit power, where he can just spawn as many limbs as he wants? Or is this potentially like a zone type Devil Fruit, a mythical zone type Devil Fruit like Asura? You know, I would probably think initially that kind of Devil Fruit would be too strong for just a subordinate of Big Mom, one of the three commanders. But at the same time, I think that that's also plausible as well. We do know that Sengoku the Buddha, his mythical zone Devil Fruit, is related to religion with the Buddha, and so Asura then becomes a legitimate possibility for a potential Devil Fruit in the future. And so this could potentially be it, in my opinion, unless I'm missing something about how his powers work. But we should also keep in mind that the only thing that seems to be happening here is his number of arms grow, but there's really no physical change whatsoever, which is sort of necessary for it to be a zone type Devil Fruit. Even the Buddha that Sengoku has changes his physical appearance so that he more resembles the Buddha, and so that should be the same if there was a mythical zone Asura Fruit. So I'm more inclined to believe right now that this is just a Devil Fruit which allows him to create an infinite number of arms. But yeah guys, really hype chapter, really awesome reveals, I believe. And the future is getting a little bit clearer with each and every chapter, but we still got a long way to go to fully understand how this whole Cake Island arc is going to play out. So let me know what you guys think about this chapter. Let me know if you noticed something that in this chapter that I didn't notice. And leave your comments in the comment section. Like the video if you liked the video. I'd appreciate it if you subscribe to be notified for all my future videos. And as always, dudes, have a wonderful day.